This is Friday, the 18th, 2022, March 11:37 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. We were John C. Roseman, California. I have been trying to go over the information and events in my head in regards to our current political nightmare that's still occurring in Ukraine. In conjunction with that is also a school lessons we've been going over in our World Lit class over at Antelope Valley College, and we are reading about Russian authors: Dostoevsky, Kafka, Tolstoy, and a few others that have brought me more confusion and more condolences for the Russian people these days, especially what's been happening. A power mad, hungry person takes control, trying to ruin another country because he can, because that's what he says. And that's what's scaring the living crap out of people these days. I've made too many videos on this damn thing. A couple of them, a couple of them I've been trying to share with online community, not to mention a few professors I know back at the college. This has not exactly been the easiest month for us to deal with. Either was last month when the whole shebang started. Two books that we have been reading in the class this past Thursday was 1984 and Brave New World, Huxley and Orwell. Both have utilitarian, well, different forms of government at this point over here are authoritative. But actually, one that doesn't seem to be running into a government per se, just programming. And without doing any artificial programming with zeros and ones, it's also manipulating the DNA of certain strands that come out with different classifications of people to live a hedonistic life, followed up by tons of pills called soma. And how one particular outsider looks at all the technological, medical, and sociological theoretical models of wonder and comes up with the conclusion: this is hell. Yeah, first he's stunned, but it's basically humanity making hell for itself on Earth. But here's another form of hell that actually does deal with pain, control, power, everything in pursuit for pain, control, and power. This is what's happening. Hold on. Orwell's nightmare given to us concerning about how an authoritative regime handed over by people and commonly accepted. When they use surveillance left and right, and they use control, they use pain for pain's sake in order to maintain control. And anything that happened in the past didn't happen because the party says so. Well, basically, we're seeing what's happening in Russia doing the same thing in the form of one man who wants his former past to come back again, to haunt everybody. And what he's running into is people saying no. I'm not going to imagine of authoritative regimes because we've been having them and just not knowing it or realizing it, even in our own country. We have the so-called democracy happening, where we're theoretically allowed to vote the way we decided and the way we wanted. However, other decisions made by other controlling factors have made that impossible for a lot of us in the country. And therefore, we have to vote in a certain way, in a certain pattern, and therefore making the book 1984 come to life. It's not the control or the fear and the stigma of the camera sticking in your face and saying, "What are you doing?" Unless, of course, you've got some people who are going to be there with the pain sticks, one way or another, to tell you that you vote this way, or else you don't vote at all. But you do have the freedom and the right to vote, so you will vote this way. The one ring, one power rules them all. The throne of Tolkien. And what scares me is when populism gets involved in situations like this, where a gas bag can come up and spew out its laughable and toxic waste on the people, and they lap it up like it's cotton candy, and they start to believe it. And they still believe in it. Even after a vote came up where the gas bag didn't get his second term and starts threatening everybody. Some people actually take the threat seriously enough. Others are laughing about it all the way through the court systems. And yet other people are still believing in it. It's these type of people that scare the hell out of me, because they will put us into Orwellian future or a dystopia. Whichever one comes first. Either we get a type of it or we get the real result. Now, mind you, some people would have preferred getting drugged out of their minds and spaced out and doing whatever the hell they want to do, but they're permanently classified because that's how they were born, genetically modified and screwed around in their heads. Instead of coming out of a woman's womb, you're coming out of test tubes. Who's the mother? Who cares? Who's the father? Who cares? Go out and have fun. It's almost just as bad as watching Logan's Run. Just as bad. An outsider comes in and tells you what kind of a world you've got, and you laugh at them. And the only thing the savage can do is just leave, one way or another. Well, unfortunately, in our situation regarding Putin right now, that's the thing we can't do. We can't walk away and leave this bully who's pounding up the neighbors left and right, wanting more and more streets because he wants it. Because he's understanding the book of George Orwell's 1984 a lot better than everybody else does. For some people who have actually got the gist of the book, they understand that Orwell is talking about the future of losing control, losing free will, free choice, or any other kind of choice but the party's choice. When you have someone manipulating our election system of saying only this party remains and the other party, they don't matter. Our democracy, our way of life, our way of government is in jeopardy. And we have to all act. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do the business. And the business we're talking about right now is Ukraine. Ukraine is seeing this and feeling this. Ever since Russia had started its crap years ago on Ukraine and on part of its soil in its southern regions, Crimea gets annexed by Russia because Putin wants it. He's starting his end game, and now he's continuing it. And the thing of it is, if Ukraine can match him and fight him back, but I'm afraid that particular point of view is not going to happen. In my own observations. And the thing of it is, I'm afraid of that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to confront the bully head on and beat him in the face and tell him to knock the shit off. Either he has somebody telling him that, or else we're going to be screwed. And we're in for it. I had to take a pause to try to get my notes together in my head because certain circumstances are changing fluidically over in Ukraine, but not to mention here stateside. We had our president calling up President Xi Jinping over at China to know whether or not if China is still assisting Russia in any way, shape, or form. We need to know whether or not if they're going to be doing anything about this or not. This is a way of saving face at this point over here and not creating a nuclear nightmare that we're all afraid of right now. While us in an English literature class can understand what we're seeing right now and how politics affects our literature, we're also learning more and more about how literature affects politics. How political leaders are reading different books left and right and how they form their strategies and their ideologies. And how to fix things if possible. And it's scary what's going on these days. We want to have hope. We want to have faith in something that tells us that we're going to be waking up to a day that we still have some sunlight left and not under a radioactive nuclear cloud. We want to make sure that there's no madman out there going to be on the hunt for our own homeland. We want to make sure that there are descriptions and our way of describing what these terrible situations are to a lot of people. We want to express to them that this is what we're going through. We do that in the form of our own literature and how we write or how we do audio broadcasts, our podcasts, our videos, anything and everything that we can use. The best form was usually using literature, but I am getting so in tune with using technology right now. I'm afraid I'm getting addicted to it. But if we had an Orwellian future right now, it would not be possible. In our country, if we actually had lost, if Biden had lost the election and Trump had won, I think we would have been siding closer and closer to that one party, one rule. And that would scare the hell out of a lot of people. And make other people happy about it, but they're not realizing that they're sliding down to hell. Into hell. And taking everybody with them. We value our democratic processes. We value our democratic ethics. What we've created over the past 260 some odd years into this country that's still going through stages of birth, of recreating itself just to figure itself out. I do not conceive of Huxley's world of getting us drugged out like crazy. But the thing of it is, in the pharmaceutical eras that we have right now, that's exactly what's happening these days. For some of us who are actually suffering through mental health illness, and I count myself as one of them, for a hell of a long while, I hadn't taken any medications in all my life. But the one time I did take medications just to get rid of some acne, I damn near killed myself because it was the wrong medication given to me by my doctor at that time, who didn't have the information necessary to warn him of any possible side effects, or to tell him that the medication I was taking was for cancer and not for acne. But I did a wonderful job on acne, according to the manufacturing company. So, I have a hell of a lot of skepticism and a lot of disbelief when it comes down to the medical and pharmaceutical. Because the medical can only get the information from the pharmaceutical if the pharmaceutical has actually done their job right to test out the medications and see whether or not we're going to be dying from them or not. And we have to keep placing our faith and our trust into the doctors and the pharmaceuticals in the hopes of not screwing us over or putting us 6 feet under, or at least in a crematorium. But for the most part, we struggle with our own issues going on inside that squishy organ of ours. And seeing how things are trying to process itself around us and not understanding how come we're not responding to the world the way the world wants us to respond to. It's definitely to the squishy organ still having its issue of trying to figure all the senses out through its 5 sense reports. And not to mention trying to analyze everything. But it doesn't help much if we happen to have sleeping issues at the same time. That knocks us out, that we can't even figure things out and being able to experience life. Except now we're experiencing fear and terror. And sometimes the fear and terror is still in us, not the external. Our misunderstandings, our fears, our way of getting information being communicated through one fashion or another fashion and not the correct way, because then we cannot, well, this is what happens when I might get a brain fart at this point over here. I can't even find the right words to say. We can't facilitate any good, correct answer at this point over here to give the other schmuck when they keep inquiring and pestering about it. The ideas and ideologies that I'm seeing in front of my face of what we've learned, of what I have learned over the past several years in college. I know I still have a long way to go, but perhaps coming closer to the end of my journey in this place. It still didn't help me understand mankind one damn bit as much as I understood him, because now I'm looking at it at different points of view, and mankind is still screwed up. So it didn't exactly change this fart's opinion about everything around him. Just only solidified a few things. A, we don't know our ass from a hot rock, and B, we talk out of our ass. And C, if we understand what's going on around us, we sure as hell have a communication issue here. Now, is it for the benefit of the other schmuck, or is it for the benefit of our own damn schmuck in our squishy brain, called the ego? Are we doing it for control for everything else around us or something? I don't know. You tell me, we'll both know. And right now, I can't tell you. I don't have the answers. I am not a guru of everything. All I'm seeing is the world gone mad at this point. I'm seeing a map on another screen of Ukraine going hell in a handbasket with a power mad Putin laughing his ass off, saying, "Yes, I will have my Soviet Union here. Long live the Soviet Union." Meanwhile, people die off because of that, because of an Orwellian logic being played out in front of us. Even sometimes books, even while we are fearing what's going on, we're fearing the actions of a lunatic, and we mourn the dead. We constantly mourn the dead. In order to have an Orwellian future, there has to be pain, there has to be suffering, there has to be control. And we are in for it. Because the things I say probably don't matter as much. But Putin needs more than just an ass kicking and a bloody nose. He needs to have his brains rewired. But his squishy brain does not match up with his soul. His soul's already been gone a long time ago. All we're left is some kind of monster in its place. So this is what we have to deal with. This is what we have to deal with. I'm sorry I'm not elegant and esoteric, would be the word, to say to the professors of how I'm trying to explain what I'm seeing in front of my face, of how life is still struggling for body and breath and freedom and liberty, because somebody has swallowed up the book of 1984 and its contents, tattooed it on his forehead, or actually drank it in as a DNA cocktail into his genetic system, where he's nothing but an Orwellian and he wants control and pain and power. How do we measure these books up side by side? In a video that was presented to the class 4 years ago, when we already had our political intrigue happening in the United States regarding an authoritative, well, an authoritative leader who supposedly had been elected as a president but came out as a dictator. And during this time, how the authoritative leaders from other countries laughed because they saw a rookie. Trump likes his money, but he doesn't like pain. He likes control, but he likes giving out more pain. But he can't deal with the pain himself. He likes power. Power is cool. Money's good. But he doesn't have in himself the absolute devastation of his soul to leak out at everybody and screech at everybody like a mad bird, a mad pterodactyl ready to tear apart people's eyeballs and ears and mouths. Because then you have your willing population. And all we're seeing right now is a world gone mad. And if we dare happen to pass by the opportunity of striking a little bit of a glancing blow on Putin's face, we're doing it because we don't want the nuclear devastation that'll happen afterwards. But what if we happen to get the nuclear devastation even before we actually had a chance? What if it happens if he launches first? All hell breaks loose. All bets are off. And our EM gets to haunt in our dreams and in our memories forever. That's what I'm afraid of these days. That's what I'm afraid of these days.